Hi there. I've been on an interesting journey in my professional and personal life, and I've come to discover many different things around money, time, purpose, life, and the intersection and coordination of all these different things. I've had the pleasure and the honor to be able to teach and educate both groups of people, individual people, and a couple of thousand clients over my professional working career. And at this point, it's exciting to be able to think that we might be able to share some of these ideas to a broader audience. So that's the purpose of this meeting, recording, podcast, whatever we want to call it. My name is John Thompson. I've been working in finance for a little bit over 32 years, specifically in the mortgage planning space. I have the pleasure of having my son, David, who's here with us on this call, to be able to share his ideas. And I've discovered just in the last 3 years we've been together that there's connectivity between the lessons that I've learned, many of which I learned from my parents and my generation, that I'm attempting to share with David and his generation. And then he's learning things on his own independently. And we just thought it'd be really exciting to be able to share some of those ideas and thoughts in this format. So Dave, give us a little bit of your information as well.
Yeah. And my name is David, and I have been working now in this kind of finance world for 3 years. Obviously, I have a younger kind of perspective on how money works and kind of everything to do with life, right? Each generation is going to have their own different thoughts and perspectives on many types of things. And so I'm still relatively new coming out of the education system, and that obviously shaped some of my thoughts. And I think that there could be things done differently there, or even more ways to educate and kind of spread awareness around money and life and real estate and how that intersects with our thoughts and then older thoughts, and just here to kind of share that.
So cool. So at the time of this recording, I am 57 years old. I'm almost 58. David, how about you?
I'm 24.
So there you go. David is my middle son, and my other two sons, one is involved in finance, the other one is studying finance. So by design or by luck, don't know quite how we all ended up here. My dad, their grandfather, is a civil engineer, a very linear thinker, but very creative in his own ways. And my mom was a nurse and a very caring person, empathetic person. And fortunately, I inherited a couple of those traits from both of them. I won't say that I learned a ton about money from my dad. I learned how to work. I learned how to save and how to be diligent. I'll share more of that later on. But Dave, so in your working career, what do you think you've learned about money so far?
It's a pretty broad question there, but money is pretty unique and dynamic, plays such an important role in daily life. Everything we do in our lives usually has an intersection with money most of the times, whether that's working and earning money or spending money with our hobbies or with friends or whatever it might be. And, as you kind of alluded to, it's so influenced by what we grew up on, our parents or those who raised us or friends in our lives. And sometimes it's not a fundamental aspect of families, and sometimes it is. So having been raised in a family where it kind of has taught me to be diligent with saving or having more of a relationship to how money works, I have a different perspective than, say, friends that didn't have that growing up. I think it can be integrated more, and just want to spread the word more to those growing up, because the earlier we have an understanding of how it works, the more success that we can have with anything in life, our career or our savings goals and whatever it might be. There is also the flip side to that, where I have friends that have a fear of money or don't want to talk about it, and they have a fear of maybe losing it if they invest it, or they've invested in crypto and it's all gone the next day or whatnot. That's also very short kind of thinking, in my opinion. And if we had a broader thoughts about how we can educate around money and how it's a long-term kind of outlook, then I think that's interesting. What advice or perspective would you have on money?
Well, I'm going to go back and talk a little bit about, and I want to ask you the question after I'm done talking about it a little bit. And the question is actually, what is money? Mm-hmm. Right? So it's an interesting question, because people, I think they believe they have this understanding of what money is. And at least from my perspective, money is something that we're exchanging our time and our energy and our effort for, right? So if you sat around on your butt and did nothing, it's unlikely someone's going to give you this money per se, right? So it doesn't just exist in the world. Something has to happen, some action has to be taken in order to be able to get money. Even if you inherit money, there's still an action taken there. And that means someone before you had action and did something to be able to ultimately have money. But I mean, the biggest lessons I've learned really are about discipline. I think one of the interesting things you just said was that, you have friends that are fearful of money. And there's a lot of really odd things about psychology and money. And at times I felt that same way, right? Once you have something, you're fearful of losing it, right? And it doesn't matter if it's money or a skateboard or a cool pair of glasses or a car. Money is really kind of the same way. And to understand money yourself and how it works in your own life, you really need to dig deeper and see what is it about money that is fearful. Is it losing? Is it not having enough? Is it how do I spend it? All these kind of different things. But at a very basic level, it's in my mind, it's about discipline. And so you explore your life, what's going to be important. Oftentimes when you're coming out of college, you don't know what your career path is going to look like necessarily. I certainly had no idea what it's going to look like. And it took its paths in all these different areas. And sometimes I've been very, very successful, at times not so successful. And that refers to money, right? Money is not necessarily success, at least in my opinion. So it's about discipline. It's about the easy things to understand are spend less than you make, save as much as you can, and then live the lifestyle that you want to within the context of what you're trying to accomplish. I think it's a very simple lessons. And you have a different thought, Dave, about what is money?
No, not necessarily. I think, like I alluded to, money is different for everybody. Like how you touched on the kind of time and working aspect of it. Each of us have to get money. We obviously have to work. I mean, in most cases, right? So then it becomes, how do we spend our time when we're not working? And are those things that we do outside, whether that's something fun and spending money, is that worth it? Or is it worth it to learn about something else and add that to our arsenal? Is it worth it to go learn guitar, for example, and spend money on a guitar and lessons and whatnot? I don't know. I think that's a big part of our relationship with what is money to each and every one of us, is what's kind of important in our own goals and lives and what are we trying to accomplish.
Well, it's interesting. I like that you use sort of the guitar analogy, or the idea you could go spend your time taking guitar lessons. And when you're talking about time and then the money and the connectivity, one person may view that as, okay, I got to spend money to get a guitar. I got to spend money to get lessons. So I'm taking time away from other things that might be important to me. Someone else might view that as a pure investment. Hey, I'm going to get a guitar. I'm going to go take some lessons, and it's going to take some time and money, but then I'm out of a career.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know if that career is being a rock star on a giant stage at Dodger Stadium, or is it teaching high school or elementary school, someplace where you're impacting, young people. So that's the other, I think, really important lesson. There's two sides to all of these conversations.
Yeah.
It's not about, it's going to cost me this. It's going to be about what do I get out of it? Is it an investment? Is it fulfillment? Is it a purpose? What are those kind of things? And again, like we both said, it's kind of different for every person. So I do like that idea of the time and where we trade our time. And, we're going to go deeper in these lessons down the road as we do more and more about this, because each one of these things can be a really deep topic. But because we work in our business specifically, in mortgage, which is related to real estate, I'm curious, David, in your, 3.5 years of us working together, you've seen a lot of business, you've seen a lot of personal financial statements, you've seen a lot of client stuff. What have you learned about real estate? What's just a couple of 2 or 3 things that stand out for you around real estate that you could share?
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with kind of the cliche here. I think it's still kind of the American dream. Everybody wants to own the house they live in, or wants a piece of real estate. And some people take it further and want a whole investment portfolio. And some people are just happy where they're at with their house. Of course, we kind of have that youngness here, I guess. It's, talking to friends and colleagues and whatnot. It's living in Los Angeles. It seems unattainable for many of those my age. But then we go back, or I talk to clients and talk about their stories, and they've owned their homes for many, many years and maybe own multiple pieces of real estate. And they're always said, it seemed impossible for them back then too. And I think as long as you have a want to own your house and a desire to kind of make it happen, like you said, discipline to make it happen, then it can always happen, whether that's, in a year or in 10 years, I don't really know. But I think having seen many clients and talked to many clients, it's interesting, those who have a discipline towards hitting their goals with their real estate, or maybe not falling short and then having to fall back on another contingent plan. And I think it's interesting. I think the older people that we work with, real estate tends to be their largest asset. So that's also, it's kind of a forced savings account, for lack of a better term. And, I think that's also very important. If you own your home and have a mortgage and have to make that payment each month, that's kind of the first cash that's coming out of your daily lives. Sometimes leaves money for other lifestyle things, and sometimes it doesn't. So it's kind of a forced thing there. I find that interesting. So yeah. What about you?
So when I first started in this business. Yeah, I saw people that were wealthy and people that were not so wealthy and everything in between. And really one common trait was the real estate for people that were, I'll call it wealthy, although that's a whole nother conversation of what does wealthy mean. But if we look at the broad definition of wealthy, in the world, people say they've got some money in the bank, they've got some earned income, and they got some real estate, they got a bunch of equity, right? But the people that were the top of that spectrum, they had the highest net worth, were always the people that had a bunch of real estate. And so early on, I started trying to buy real estate, and I went through, we had at one point, I can't remember, something like 30 or 40 doors of investment real estate, and that's kind of what people call it over time. Doors, you got rentals and so forth. But that has its own. It's tough, right? It takes a lot of work, and it's not always successful. I think that the industry in general tries to make people think that, hey, if you got some income and you got some money, you can buy real estate and it's going to be all good. And it is for many people, but for many people, it's not good. And it is another job. I do think that real estate is a foundation of building wealth. Like you said, David, it's kind of still that American dream. And I think it's absolutely true. And even if it's not the American dream, as it were, it's still a dream around family and wealth and comfort and community. And you don't have to have real estate to have all those things, right? You don't have to, but it can be an element, and it can be an accelerant towards those things and so forth. So I think for still the majority of people, I can't remember the numbers, but I think maybe it's somewhere like 64% of people in the United States own their primary home, which means the 36% don't. Are those people unhappy? Not necessarily. Some of them are great. Some of them would want to own real estate, and they can't for other reasons. But at the end of the day, I think it's a foundational thing. And I think your point's well taken, that if you want to make a plan, you want to own real estate, then you got to start, right? You got to make a plan. You got to save some money. You got to have a vision. You got to connect with people that can teach you things over time and make it become a reality. And then if your goal is to then create more and more and more and more, great. There are people that can help you do all that. And it's wonderful, but it's a job, right? At some point, it becomes a job. And for me, it became a job, and it became too much of a job. And so I don't own any of those things anymore, quite frankly. It doesn't mean I don't think people should. Just in my life where I'm at, it wasn't important for me to maintain all that. So I think it's great. This is our conversation today. We're going to dig deep into all these subjects. We're going to have guests on the show, at some point. We'll broaden our reach and reach out to more people. And we hope there's lessons that you can learn. I hope you'll reach out to David or myself and ask us questions. There'll be information when this is posted on how to reach out to us and how to contact us, and share this with other people, like it, do all the kind of things you need to do. And we're excited to be able to get this going. So Dave, any last words for?
That's it. Yeah. Excited to dive deeper and kind of talk to others outside of me and you on their thoughts about these topics. So it'll be exciting.
Awesome. So that's great. All right. So thanks very much. And we'll talk to you all soon. Have a wonderful day.